Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my channel, Christy's Musings. I'm Christy, aka Tigger. If you're my friend, you can call me Grandma Tigger or Tigger. Just plain Tigger works. I hope you'll stick around and be my friend and continue supporting me in the growth of my channel. I hope I'll win your trust. I wanted to read some stuff to you all today, but before I get to it, I was going to ask you, have you seen all of this stuff with Sydney Sweeney and her Aeropostale jeans, good jeans advertisement? When I saw people making a ruckus over it, I thought about Kanye and his stuff that he put out recently. And I was like, yeah, they're going all the way to the bank with that. And yeah, they're making a big to-do of it being a left-right thing again. But I hate to tell you, but that kind of craziness sells. It makes money. People get off. There's the ones that's going to think, well, yeah, they're being racist and they're racist, so now they know where to go shopping, right? And then there's the other one that likes controversies, and so they're going to go also. But Sydney Sweeney also has some soap put out that's from her bath water. I'm just baffled, wordless on that one. But it does say whatever will get men to take a bath. And we women know that sometimes when you're married, the men, they miss some places. I'll just leave it at that. If you're like me, I'm trying to figure out if I want to wear the glasses or not. But if you're like me and you hear all these things about young children being flown in and out of the airport and going places, you're like, well, how did they do that? Well, we know that Epstein had his own planes, right? But not everybody flew on his planes. And so how did they work around all of these situations, with the airport? Because you know what it's like to go to the airport. I remember being an unaccompanied minor whenever I was in my teens, and them keeping track of me all the way through Atlanta airport, and then in Texas, in Dallas, going to Colorado. So I know that it's tough getting through these airports, and I was like, how do they do all of this? So, I just lost my spot. That's what I get for fidgeting, right? I've always been a wiggle worm, getting pinches from my mama. But anyway, you remember a few weeks ago I talked about Leslie Wexner, and I told you about the companies that he founded, whatever, the Limited and Victoria's Secret. Well, just remember the Limited as I'm reading to you. And again, this is from One Nation Under Blackmail, Whitney Webb, Volume 2. Page 236 at the bottom. Arrow has committed to an almost daily flight to Columbus from 5 to 6 Latin American countries. Arrow Air President Dick Haberly said it would bring pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, electrical goods, fresh flowers, and seafood for destinations in United States, Europe, and Russia. Flights going back to Latin America would be loaded with electrical equipment, computers, and textiles, Haberly said. Arrow now has one daily flight into Columbus from various points in Latin America, a DC-863F capable of carrying 100,000 pounds of cargo. The capacity would be doubled by the new commitment. Arrow recently brought some of its key customers from Latin America to Columbus in order to tour Rickenbacker International Airport and to make them comfortable with the new arrangement, Haberle said. As the deal involving Aeroflot and Aero Air continued to be cemented, it is reported in March 1993 that among the many international companies that have Central Ohio homes, which is where Wexner's from, right? The Limited played a key role in cultivating the Aeroflot enterprise. Remember that I know Victoria's Secret song, and she says he's a man down in the basement in Ohio. In apparent reference to the role Aero Air stood to play, the report also stated the airline anticipates that its Rickenbacker flights also will link with cities in South America and along the Pacific Rim. The Limited each year imports about 60 million pounds of merchandise from Pacific Rim nations. The first flight on North American Aeroflot would take place shortly thereafter on April 26, 1993, originating in far eastern Russia and stopping in Anchorage, Alaska, before arriving in Columbus. Its cargo, local media reported, was bound for the Limited. The involvement of Aero Air in the Aeroflot charter flights, in which the Limited had been intimately involved, is highly significant. In court documents from 1991 and related to the arrest of Arif Durrani, federal prosecutors had referred to Miami-based Aero Air as a Florida corporation contracted by the NSC, National Security Council, CIA, SAT, that's Southern Air Transport, to move weapons and equipment as part of the covert Iran-Contra weapons/hostage operation. Other documents referred to in that text are stated to clearly show the CIA, NSC, Aero Air links. Also referenced is the testimony of Southern Air Transport's Charles Mulligan, confirming that SAT had contracted Aero Air for extremely secret operations. Also worth noting is the December 1985 crash involving the Aero airplane that had been carrying 248 American soldiers. It was subsequently determined that the plane had been involved in the arms for hostages aspect of Iran-Contra and had been carrying contraband weapons at the time it crashed. Also found among the plane's wreckage was a 32-kilo Army-issued duffel bag stuffed with U.S. currency. So you're probably saying, well, wait a minute, what about all the customs and all the checkpoints? On page 242. As for Wexner, Epstein, and the Limited, it seemed as though their attention turned towards Lane Aviation Corp. following the implosion of SAT in 1998. Originally founded in 1935, Lane had expanded into Rickenbacker first in June 1995, shortly after SAT's relocation to the airport, and can be found in Epstein's Black Book of Contacts. Lane would later handle some of Columbus area visits of celebrities in Epstein's and Maxwell's inner circle, such as the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, as well as aircraft for the Limited. By 2010, Lane was a critical provider of essential services. And you know, they slip a lot of stuff in that title of essential services that are largely invisible to the public but support most of the flights into and out of the airport, Rickenbacker. In 2011, something rather curious happened at Rickenbacker. After heavy lobbying from local businessmen, U.S. Customs officials began to clear private planes at the two private terminal operators at Port Columbus instead of having to go through customs checks at the main terminal. Imagine that. Get your own folks and get your own system going, and you don't have any problems, right? As you can see, these people get their own fixers and people in position to be the grease on the wheels to not stop the normal things that you and I have to deal with. There's people like William Barr, that was called the fixer for all things, Epstein and lots of crimes. And just like whenever I went to Mena, Arkansas, they get the people in the right places. They find where they can get the job done. And this is just one of them. So I hope you all take note. Like I said, my utmost concern is the people that were innocent and didn't know what they were getting into or were kidnapped. Because like I said, like I pointed out, they're going all over the place in Europe and down in South America, and people, don't have ways to report everything that's going on. But I'm rambling, but I just wanted you to see that this kind of stuff was going on, and is still going on. Don't believe for a minute that they have stopped just because Epstein's out of the picture, okay? Love y'all. Talk to you later.